Long box pulling straps is one of our prone or on your stomach exercises that we can do on the reformer to really work basically the entire posterior chain. So we are looking at triceps, we are looking at lats, we are looking at lower traps, we are looking at erector spinae and a lot of the little muscles that run up and down your spine to stabilize, as well as some glutes, some hamstrings. There's core connection as always. And this is just one of the best ways that we can work posterior chain and upper back. Spring setup for long box pulling straps, you could be anywhere from a single blue up to a red or a green for more challenge. Sometimes people need a yellow or a high yellow as well to drop down lower. So in general, one spring is a good rule of thumb. To come into a prone position on the box, the easiest way is to take your hands, place one on either corner of the box, swing the legs around, and then lower your chest down so that your sternum or bra line is at the edge of the box. So we want the chest off the box just to make sure everybody's comfortable. Usually if the foot bar's up, people's shins will start resting down on the foot bar. That's fine to start. We're going to grab onto your straps and hold the straps at the knots. For our position setup, once we've got our straps, is if you have people kind of relax down, you'll notice that the chest folds over the box and the shins rest on the foot bar. So we want to start by lifting the chest just in line with the rest of the body and extending and reaching the legs back, which will lift the shins up. So a lot of times if you cue a leg lift, people will just overlift for what we're wanting to start this exercise. We just want that little bit of length to activate your glutes and hamstrings in the posterior chain. We also want to tuck the pubic bone down into the box to keep people out of their lower back. So just cueing pubic bone and hip bones down and belly lifts away from the box. Once we're here, to start, we'll have your hands down by the side of the frame and you simply pull the straps all the way up towards the hips, keeping the palms facing in, and then slowly release back down with control. Other variations here, we can pull those arms up to the hips and then bend at the elbows for a little tricep bend. We can also add a bit of an extension through the upper back, so starting in more of a flex position, lifting the chest forward into an extension as you bring the elbows back, and then lowering back down. And we also can do a T-fly here, so just starting the arms up a little higher out in a V, drawing the hands back to the hips, and then releasing back out of that T. Few of the common problems we see here. Number one, if anybody's ever saying anything about lower back twinginess or pain in this position, cue that tailbone or pubic bone tuck into the box just to give a little bit of length out of the lower back. It'll also activate their glutes a bit. Secondly, a lot of times people will kind of leave the arms down here and work in this range, and we really want to make sure they're lifting all the way up to the hips and then lowering back down and keeping those palms facing in toward your sides and lowering back down. Sometimes people will kind of swing the straps where they're losing tension. So if you're noticing that, first cue them to just move a little bit slower and maintain the tension. And if that's still not happening, it may just be an indication that they need a little bit less spring to work with to really get those arms up and down and keep control of the carriage. And lastly, we want to pay a lot of attention to the head, neck, and shoulder alignment here. So in this exercise, we want to make sure the head, neck, and shoulders are in line with the spine. Often what you'll see is people either try to look up and forward, which is going to put their neck in a lot of extension, or they let the head hang and they're just kind of here. And if we don't have that head, neck, and shoulders in line with the rest of the spine, we're losing out on a lot of the spinal stabilization component of this. It kind of deactivates all those muscles that run up and down the spine, especially if we're hanging down here. So we may still be getting some tricep work, but we lose all of the upper back and spine work when we do that. So just cueing, kind of pulling the throat up towards the ceiling or tucking an apple underneath the chin can be really helpful. So typically we don't need a ton of modifications for this exercise other than playing with different spring tension and different variations. But usually if we need a modification, it's because somebody can't lay on their stomach. So that could be because it's uncomfortable or they really can't. So depending on why they can't or don't want to lay on their stomach would kind of dictate how we choose to respond to that. So, for example, if somebody has just had surgery and they've got scarring and scar tissue, laying on their stomach may just be putting too much pressure there. We might be able to get away with just putting a blanket under their belly to help kind of cushion and not be on such a hard surface. You can do the same thing if people have pain just with the sternum on the edge of the box. Just padding that a little bit can help them with that as well. This is a position that people sometimes don't want to be in if they've just eaten a meal, right? If you've got any kind of reflux going on, this can kind of push that over the edge. So that would just be an indication that we're going to sit up and do a different variation. And same with pregnancy. Once you reach a certain point in pregnancy, we really don't want to lay on the belly. And a good option if somebody can't lay on the belly is just to flip them up on the box and have them do pulling straps seated upright. So we're getting most of the same muscle groupings here with very similar variations as if they're down on their stomachs.